Ford didn't just build cars for the streets, they built dreams, experiments, and sometimes wild machines the public never even saw. From bubble canopy spaceships to mid-genuine exotics, these one-offs reveal a hidden history. Today, we'll uncover 10 rare Fords you've likely never seen, each stranger and rarer than the last. In 1955, while most American cars were dripping with chrome and tail fins, Ford rolled out something that looked like it had crash-landed from another planet: the Ford Mystere. This wasn't just a car, it was a vision of the jet age, unveiled to show the world what the future of driving might look like. With its massive glass bubble canopy and smooth, spaceship-like curves, the Mystere made even Cadillac's most flamboyant designs look tame. It was a rolling sculpture, built not to sell, but to shock. What made it even stranger? The Mystere had no engine at all. On paper, it was supposed to run on a gas turbine, a futuristic dream of endless smooth power. In reality, it was just an empty shell. Ford produced only one prototype, and that single car carried enough innovation to dominate headlines. Its rear-engine layout, razor-sharp fins, and disc-like wheel covers weren't practical, they were theatrical. And that was the point. The Mystere wasn't meant for the streets, it was meant to capture imaginations. The Mystere became an instant media sensation, photographed endlessly and splashed across newspapers. It was proof that Ford wasn't just a car company, it was a dream factory. But here's the catch. After the spotlight dimmed, the Mystere disappeared into Ford's archives, never to be built again. Imagine if even a handful of them had made it onto highways, turning every suburban drive into a science fiction film. That single car, still preserved today, remains one of the rarest concept vehicles in Ford's history. Its value doesn't lie in performance, but in the audacity of its design. And just when the public thought Ford couldn't top a spaceship on wheels, the company unveiled something even stranger: a two-wheeled car balanced by gyroscopes. If the Mystere looked like a spaceship, the Ford Gyron looked like it had flown straight out of a comic book. Revealed in 1961, it was Ford's boldest experiment yet, a car that balanced on just two wheels. The trick wasn't magic, it was gyroscopes, heavy spinning devices hidden inside the car that kept it upright. This wasn't a motorcycle that leaned, it was a futuristic pod that stood tall on its own. The Gyron had a streamlined fiberglass body, razor-sharp lines, and a cockpit canopy straight out of the Jetsons. Inside, it ditched the traditional steering wheel. Instead, drivers used a central dial to steer, with footpads for braking. Ford envisioned it as the perfect commuter car for the future: compact, stable, and even loaded, with ideas like an onboard computer and a snooperscope screen to see through fog. Only one full-size prototype was ever built, making it one of the rarest Fords in existence. Sadly, that very prototype was destroyed in a 1962 fire at Ford's Rotunda building, leaving behind only scale models and photographs. The Gyron's story isn't about horsepower, it's about imagination. Ford dared to ask, what if cars didn't need four wheels at all? The tragedy of its loss in the fire only fuels its mystique. Imagine if it had survived long enough to tour the auto shows of the 1960s. How many young designers and dreamers would have been inspired by this two-wheeled wonder? Even in death, the Gyron still sparks desire. Collectors would give fortunes to own even a fragment of the lost prototype. And just when Ford fans thought the company's imagination couldn't stretch further, engineers came back with something more grounded but no less radical: a mid-engined two-seater that promised race car thrills on the road. By the late 1960s, Ford had conquered Le Mans with the GT40 and was riding high on performance glory. But the company wanted more than race wins. It wanted to bring that mid-engine magic to the streets. Enter the Ford Mach 2, revealed in 1967, a radical two-seat concept that looked ready to duel Ferraris. Unlike traditional Mustangs or Torinos with front-mounted engines, the Mach 2 placed its power behind the driver, a design drawn straight from the GT40 playbook. It carried a 289 cubic inch V8, the same small block that made the Mustang a legend mounted mid-ship. The body sat only 47 inches high, with a curb weight around 2,650 pounds. Independent rear suspension gave it agility, while clever airflow management used ducts and electric fans to cool the engine bay. Ford's plan was bold: sell the Mach 2 at about $7,000, $500, roughly $71,000 today, and build 500 units in the first year. Only 2 running prototypes were ever produced, making it one of the rarest performance experiments in Ford's catalog. The Mach 2 represented a tantalizing what-if. Had Ford followed through, America could have had its own affordable mid-engine sports car years before the Daytona Pantera or even the Pontiac Fiero. Imagine seeing a fleet of Mach 2s thundering down American highways in the late 60s, offering European handling with Detroit muscle. But shifting priorities and production costs killed the dream. The Mach 2 never advanced past the prototype stage, leaving enthusiasts to wonder what might have been if Ford had truly mass-produced a GT40 for the street. That sense of loss adds to its mystique, a perfect blend of race-bred engineering and muscle car heritage that vanished too soon. And just when Ford fans thought the dream of futuristic practicality was dead, the company pivoted towards something smaller, quieter, and shockingly ahead of its time, an all-electric city car, long before EVs were fashionable. In 1967, long before Tesla or Nissan Leaf, Ford dared to imagine a city run on electricity. The result was the Ford Comuta, a tiny EV designed for crowded urban streets. Barely 6 feet, 8 inches long, it looked almost like a toy car, yet it carried serious ambition. Powered by 2 electric motors on the rear wheels and fed by 4 12-volt lead-acid batteries, the Comuta offered a top speed of 37 mph and a maximum range of about 37 miles. It wasn't meant for long highway cruises. It was built for short commutes, shopping runs, and downtown errands. With no gears or clutch, it promised automatic driving, decades before that phrase became trendy. The interior carried 2 adults up front and space for 2 children or cargo in back. Features like dipping headlamps, anti-burst door locks, and even heating and cooling showed Ford wasn't treating it as a gimmick. Only 2 prototypes were built at a cost of roughly $10 million in development, making it one of Ford's most expensive experiments per unit. The Comuta proved Ford was thinking about sustainability long before the oil crisis of the 1970s. Imagine if it had gone into production city streets in the late 60s, buzzing with quiet little EVs, changing the narrative of pollution and efficiency decades earlier. Instead, the prototypes became museum pieces, curiosities that whispered of a future delayed. Collectors and historians treasured the Comuta not for speed, but for its foresight. It showed that Ford, even in the muscle car era, could imagine a world beyond gasoline. And when the Comuta faded, Ford shifted gears back towards style and sport, unveiling a concept coupe with gull-wing doors and bold Italian flair. By 1976, European car buyers were leaning toward compact hatchbacks and stylish coupes. Volkswagen had stunned the market with the Scirocco. Ford's answer was the Corrida, a wild little sports car concept built on the humble Fiesta platform but dressed to look like something from a sci-fi set. Unveiled at the 1976 Turin Motor Show, the Corrida was penned by Ghia, Ford's Italian design house. The standout feature? Gull-wing doors that flipped upward, allowing easy access even in cramped parking spaces. Its body was wedge-shaped, with a huge glass canopy that gave it a futuristic look, while inside sat a modular dashboard, a hint at customization decades before it became popular. Underneath, the Corrida was still front-wheel drive using Fiesta underpinnings, but its dramatic styling made it appear far more exotic. Even details like electrically operated headlamp covers and a bottom-hinged tailgate that extended cargo space gave it touches of clever innovation. Only 1 prototype was ever made, making it a true one-off in Ford's concept history. The Corrida sparked imagination, a low-cost sports car with Italian flair, aimed at young drivers who wanted excitement without the price of a Porsche. Imagine if Ford had mass-produced its small towns across Europe, filled with gull-wing Fiesta-based coupes, redefining what affordable performance looked like in the late 70s. Instead, the Corrida faded after its show debut, a stylish footnote rather than a revolution. Today, it's remembered as proof that Ford wasn't afraid to blend practicality with bold design. And just as the Corrida explored compact efficiency, Ford's next concept pushed practicality even further into a pocket-sized car that turned its very doors into storage bins. In 1980, Ford revealed one of its most unusual experiments in space efficiency: the Pockar. The name blended pocket and car, and that wasn't just clever marketing, it was the entire philosophy. Designers asked, what if every unused corner of a vehicle could become useful? The Pockar's party trick was its external door, storage. Panels on the outside of the doors opened downward like little hatches, allowing you to stash small bags or tools without even entering the cabin. Inside, those same compartments doubled as armrests. At just 129 inches long, the Pockar was tiny, yet it seated 4 passengers, making it surprisingly practical for its footprint. Styling carried the same theme, large wraparound bumpers aligned with the external storage pods, offering both protection and a futuristic look. Rectangular headlights with integrated indicators framed a single windshield wiper, another sign of efficiency. First thinking. Ford built only one prototype, but its influence echoed through later compact models like the Fiesta and Escort. The Pockar showed how creative Ford could be when solving urban challenges. Imagine if the design had made production drivers in crowded European cities could have tucked groceries, briefcases, or even sports gear directly into the car's sides. Parking lots might have become showcases for innovation rather than frustration. But the world wasn't quite ready for a car that wore its storage on the outside. The Pockar faded into obscurity, though some of its ideas lived on quietly in later Fords. Today it stands as a quirky reminder that practicality can be daring too. And as the Pockar tested space, Ford's next concept tested gender barriers by putting design leadership in the hands of a groundbreaking woman. In 1982, Ford unveiled a concept that broke tradition in more ways than one: the Brezza. Unlike previous projects dominated by male designers, the Brezza was created by Marilena Corvasi, making it the first Ford concept car designed entirely by a woman. That milestone alone gives it a unique place in history. The Brezza was a compact 2-seater with a mid-gene layout, rare for Ford at the time. It carried a 1.6-liter CVH engine from the Escort Mach 3, initially paired with an automatic transmission, but also tested with a 5-speed manual. Its purpose wasn't raw speed, but style and aerodynamics. The car's rounded nose, retractable headlamps, and flush windshield reduced drag, while the rear wheels were partially enclosed by fairings. Underneath, a belly pan smoothed airflow, pushing efficiency forward at a time when aerodynamics were just starting to dominate design. Dimensionally, the Brezza measured 157 inches long, 65 inches wide, and only 48 inches tall, with a 91-inch wheelbase. Only one prototype was built, making it a true one-off in Ford's concept lineup. The Brezza wasn't just about engineering, it was about vision. Having a woman design both the exterior and interior gave the project a fresh perspective, focused on elegance as much as function. Imagine if Ford had put the Brezza into production, a small, stylish sports coupe led by innovative design thinking, showing the industry that diversity could shape performance. But the Brezza never reached dealerships. Instead, it became a symbol of what could have been a turning point, where Ford might have embraced compact mid-engine sports cars for a wider audience. Still, its spirit carried forward, and when Ford next dreamed up a small, affordable sports roadster, it took another leap toward excitement with Italian flair and an open roof. In 1984, Ford tapped into classic European spirit with the Barchetta, Italian for little boat. Built on the Fiesta XR2 platform, it was a featherweight roadster that aimed to deliver affordable fun. Unlike the heavy muscle cars of Detroit, the Barchetta embraced simplicity, low weight, small size, and open-air freedom. Power came from a 1.6-liter engine producing 86 horsepower driving the front wheels. Hardly impressive by muscle standards, but the magic lay in its balance and lightness. The wedge-shaped body featured flush-mount lights, a clean profile, and a fabric top that folded scissor-style into a neat compartment behind the seats. Measuring compactly and riding low, the Barchetta wasn't about brute force, it was about joy. Ford and Ghia collaborated on the design in Turin, Italy, where the car debuted at the 1984 Geneva Motor Show. Crowds responded enthusiastically, drawn to its blend of practicality and flair. But despite the buzz, Ford built only one prototype, making the Barchetta one of the rarest concept roadsters in its history. The Barchetta hinted at a world where Ford could have beaten Mazda to the punch. 6 years before the MX-5 Miata arrived, Ford had a recipe for an inexpensive, lightweight convertible that could have defined a new era of roadsters. Imagine European streets filled with affordable Barchettas, delivering sports car thrills to young drivers. Instead, the project was shelved. The dream of a Ford Roadster never materialized, and the Miata took the crown Ford might have claimed. Today, the Barchetta survives as a tantalizing reminder of opportunity lost. And just when it seemed Ford had missed its moment, another Italian-inspired design emerged, the Maya, a mid-engine wedge that promised true exotic flair. If the Barchetta was playful, the Ford Maya was pure ambition. Designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro at Italdesign, the Maya looked like it had been carved from a wind tunnel. With its sharp wedge profile and low-slung stance, it was Ford's attempt to flirt with the exotic car world. Unveiled at the 1984 Turin Motor Show, the Maya stunned audiences with its futuristic proportions. It was a mid-engine sports car powered by a 3-liter V6 developed in collaboration with Yamaha, producing around 250 horsepower. Its body was sleek, its cabin surprisingly roomy, and the steering wheel bristled with buttons foreshadowing the multi-function controls we see today. Ford reportedly considered limited production, with estimates of up to 50 cars per day, but it never happened. Instead, only a handful of prototypes were built, including later evolutions known as Maya 2 ES and EM. Refining the design further, the Maya showed what could have been a bold new chapter, an American-badged exotic rival to Ferrari or Lotus, born from Italian design and Japanese engineering. Imagine Ford dealerships in the mid-80s selling a car with true supercar lines, standing toe-to-toe with Europe's finest. But the Maya never escaped the concept stage. Ford pulled back, worried about cost and practicality. The prototypes remain museum pieces, proof of Ford's near leap into the exotic segment. For enthusiasts, that missed chance makes the Maya one of Ford's most desirable phantoms. And just when it seemed Ford would never again dare to produce a mid-junior road car, the company tried one last time in the 1980S, delivering a turbocharged two-seater that came shockingly close to reality. By 1986, Ford was ready to take one last shot at a true mid-engine sports car. The result was the Cobra 230 ME, a low-slung two-seater that looked ready to challenge Europe's finest. Unlike many earlier concepts, this wasn't just a design exercise, it was a serious prototype, assembled by the French company Chausson, built with production in mind. Under its rear hatch sat a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 230 horsepower. Ford claimed it could sprint from 0 to 60 mph in just 6 seconds and reach a top speed of 130 mph. With a drag coefficient as low as 0.33, the Cobra 230 ME was aerodynamically efficient too. Inside, it carried power lumbar bucket seats, leather trim, and a driver-focused layout that made it feel production-ready. Yet despite all the promise, only one prototype was completed. It hinted at a new future for Ford, affordable, lightweight performance coupes that could stand up to the likes of Lotus. The Cobra 230 ME might have been Ford's most realistic chance to bring a mid-genius car to showrooms. Imagine American buyers in the mid-80s walking into Ford dealerships and finding a turbocharged road missile with exotic styling and real-world performance. It could have carved out a whole new image for Ford, bridging everyday affordability with supercar flair. Instead, the project was shelved, and the Cobra 230 ME became yet another ghost in Ford's history. Still, its influence lived on. Elements of its styling echoed later in the Ford Probe, proving the ideas weren't lost entirely. The Cobra 230 ME closed a remarkable era of experimentation. From bubble canopy dream machines to lost exotics, Ford proved again and again that it could imagine the extraordinary, even if those visions never reached the street. From futuristic bubbles to forgotten mid-engine missiles, these 10 rare Fords prove the company's wildest ideas often vanished before they could shine. They remind us that innovation sometimes survives only in prototypes. Which of these cars would you most want Ford to bring back today, and why? Share your pick in the comments below. And if you love exploring the hidden side of muscle and concept cars, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Muscle Cars Revolution and ring the bell so you never miss an episode.